entrepreneurship, it just isn't for the faint-hearted, man. It's a tough business when you're starting something, you're bootstrapping it. It's like you versus the world. Part one is when you don't have the money, you have to be scrappy. And I learned a lot of things, like, moms at the time, there wasn't a lot of organic milk in the region. So they're like, look, we want organic milk. The guys with the biggest boots were the milk and meat companies. So that was like a light bulb that went off that, hey, there must be a lot of money and velocity in the milk business. I would just go to them without any business card and say, hey, I'm doing research. And the buyers, I befriended them, through whether it's my charisma or friendliness or just being a nice, genuine, authentic guy. I approached 4 or 5 mom influencers, and without really charging much, they started promoting us.
Mustafa Koita, welcome to Below the Fold podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you here on the show. This show is now ranked top 5 business podcasts in the UAE.
Amazing.
Just as an update for my listeners and viewers out there. And I couldn't be prouder of that achievement. And also couldn't be prouder to announce that while having you on the show. Right?
I'm flattered, man.
Yes,
I'm flattered.
yes. I think it matches sort of the status of the podcast is to have people like you on the show as well.
Cool.
With your track record in launching an exciting brand, which is Koita. The listeners out there maybe perhaps can't tell, but if you are watching the video, you can tell who I'm talking to right now. The founder and owner of Koita, Koita Milk. Before we get into Koita, do you want to give the listeners and viewers a bit of background about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So if you can't tell from my accent, I'm American born.
Yeah.
My father is Indian. He migrated to the US in the 60s. So I'm like a coconut. I'm brown on the outside and white on the inside.
All right.
I use that joke on a lot of podcasts, by the way.
Well, it works.
And grew up in the US, was in London for 4 years, had my first daughter there, Serena. Moved to Dubai almost 20 years ago, had 2 more kids here as a professional. I was in the defense business before I got into the milk business, so very similar industries.
Very adjacent.
Very adjacent, yeah. And I can get into that more. And then about 11 years ago, I started Koita Milk. And we basically sell organic milk, lactose-free milk, and plant-based milks. We're in about 9 countries. And I founded it many, many years ago, bootstrapped it, self-funded it, and here we are today.
Wow, impressive.
Yeah. That's like the whole podcast right there.
That's it.
Yeah.
Full stop.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
We don't really need to know anymore.
Yeah.
Interesting background.
Yeah.
Maybe before we get into Koita, tell me a bit about the business acumen that obviously you've earned throughout your years before you get into Koita.
Yeah.
What is it? What were the I guess the learnings, the lessons that you took with you and applied on Koita when you launched Koita?
Yeah. When you say that, there's really one word that comes to mind, and that's persistence, or never giving up. There's a lot of ways of saying it, but I think the secret to our success, or at least my success before I started Koita, that helped the company get to where it is today, is I just never gave up. I kind of had an idea in my mind. It wasn't like fully formed. It wasn't like the perfect business plan, but I just knew I kind of wanted to go in this direction. And I think a lot of it has to do with my childhood. I had a lot of, as you may hear from a lot of entrepreneurs, we all had a lot of setbacks, personal tragedies, and things like that. And the persistence that I used as a kid getting through like struggles with my family life was the same persistence engine that helped me when I started the company. And it really helped because entrepreneurship, it just isn't for the faint-hearted, man. It's a tough business when you're starting something, you're bootstrapping it. It's like you versus the world. So I would say from my childhood struggles, that's where I really learned it. It wasn't through college or work. I just learned persistence because I had to overcome a lot as a child.
Yeah, it's that adversity, right? That's what I always tell people who are complaining and nagging about work and or about their tragedies growing up.
Yeah.
Adversity builds character, right? And it builds that thick skin that you need to make it in in a very competitive world, right? As an entrepreneur. I'm interested to know why you picked Koita as the name of the brand.
Yeah,
I think it might be straightforward.
Yeah.
This is your brand.
Yeah.
Obviously, you want your name on it. Is there anything else?
Yeah, I mean, like when I was trying to figure out the name, I talked to a family member who had started his own business, and he's like, "What do you want to do with it? Do you want to launch this thing and then sell it to a VC firm and do this and do that?" And I was like, I want to build something that I could pass on to my children, And so, against all the advice of industry experts, they're like, never name something your family name because it gets personal, He's like, look, if that's what you want to do, then put your name on it. And he also had started a very successful company, which was based on his name. So I named it Koita as if my ego wasn't big enough, But I realized that there was actually a really good reason for it, because if you're playing the long game in entrepreneurship and you put your family name on it, it's like your family reputation is on every single pack, and you treat every single decision as a long-term kind of family decision. Wow. You don't cut corners, So when I named it Koita, when I was like doing the research, I think I listened harder. When I was selling, I think I sold harder. When we merchandise, like even like we're in Singapore, I remember when I was traveling to Singapore, I was like in the aisles merchandising the product because it was like, hey, this is our family name. And so Koita is from my family name, and that's the reason. And a lot of people said it also kind of sounds cool,
Mm-hmm.
So that's sort of the reasoning behind why I named it Koita.
I love that. So you put more heart into it. Right?
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah,
you have to if your name's on it, because it's like your reputation,
Right,
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And when we were talking on the phone yesterday, you were telling me about these tactics, that you've employed to conduct research, to know more about the market.
Yeah.
When you were launching this product.
Yeah.
Tell me a bit about that, especially in the absence, you said, of investors involved and support that otherwise other entrepreneurs could get.
Yeah.
How did you maneuver your way to bootstrap this?
Yeah. So there's a couple elements to that. So number one, as you know, I started this with no money, and most people when they launch brands, they have like multi-million-dollar budgets. So I think I started the whole company with like $300,000-$400,000 in my life savings, and so because of that, I didn't have the money to like go buy $300,000 research and hire this firm and that firm. So I had to be scrappy from the beginning, and so the first thing that I did is kind of two things. As I talked to people in the food business, because I was coming from defense, I didn't know nothing about food, right? Yeah. So I realized that you can get a lot of free advice by just talking to people and asking them for their advice. And a lot of people want to give advice. And these are like people that worked at Clorox, at Unilever. I would just cold call them. Some were friends of friends. And I'd interview them and listen and just be curious. Like, how do you launch a brand? What are the important things? What do you got to do? And I remember I met this girl who had worked at Clorox. Her name was Lori. And she said, have you talked to your customers? And I'm like, no. She's like, well, maybe you should do what's called primary research and get some focus groups together and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, how do you do that? She's like, look, we hire these firms, we get people in a room, we talk to them, we ask, non-yes or no questions.
Yeah. Focus groups.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I know I want to sell to parents because look, my kids were having issues with the milk, right? My Serena was like breaking out in hives when she would drink regular milk. My son was lactose intolerant. Sophia couldn't drink like regular milk. She needed plant-based milk. So I kind of ended up creating a line for each kid. But I needed to do focus groups. And because I didn't have a lot of money, what I ended up doing is just calling lots of friends. So I called like 10 moms and I was like, listen, can you, each of you, call like 7 other moms. I'll buy you guys all coffee and let me come in and show you like some mock-ups of my product. I want to ask you questions about, your milk usages, applications. And I literally just sat there and listened for like 3 months on my own dime. So part one is when you don't have the money, you have to be scrappy. And I learned a lot of things like, moms at the time, there wasn't a lot of organic milk in the region. So they're like, look, we want organic milk. The number one application is for kids. Whole fat milk wasn't available. So that's a big thing. Vitamin D was very important because there's a vitamin D deficiency. So I started listening and I was like, man, shit, I'm learning so much in terms of that, right?
And these are not different from the regular focus groups,
Yeah,
big companies.
but I was
run,
doing them myself,
Yeah.
right? And I think there was an advantage to that because I was there, you know, and I ended up meeting like almost 1,000 mothers over the course of like a period of time and got to know them. And they gave me a lot of, so in the beginning, when you ask your question, I was scrappy and I was just trying to figure that out. The second thing that I did is I started going to trade shows. And so I went to Expo West, which is a big trade show in LA, Anuga and Seattle and Europe. And I would go to the trade shows to learn what's happening in the West because some of those trends would come here.
You had already decided that you want to launch in the UAE. Yeah.
And I was trying to figure out exactly what I knew. Kind of milk was what you know. I had an example with an issue with my kids, but I got a lot of validation and learning from the trade shows. And like for example, when I went to Expo West, I realized that the guys with the biggest boots were the milk and meat companies. So that was like a light bulb that went off. That hey, there must be a lot of money and velocity in the milk business. So I looked at Organic Valley, Horizon. I was looking at some meat companies at the time. And that kind of validated that, hey, milk was a high velocity, high volume product within, you know, this niche. So those are a couple examples where, you know, you just got to use your limited resources to try and capture information.
Yeah. You mean fresh milk? Any kind of milk, sorry, including fresh milk or lactose-free milk or alternative milk?
Well, there's a lot of different things in milk. I mean, milk is a complicated business. First, there's
Let's break down milk.
Yeah, so milk comes in like two big varieties. There's fresh milk is actually called short life milk, and then there's long life milk, which lasts 6 to 10 months. And the difference between that is actually the pasteurization. So short life milk is what you call it fresh, but that's what you see in the chiller. And it lasts like 5 to 7 days. And what they do with short life milk is, and this I'll give you a little quick milk 101. They heat up the milk, they cool it down, and then it goes into a plastic container that light can go through and that's not airtight. And it's called fresh milk. The only difference really between that and our UHT milk is we heat it up a little bit hotter, we cool it down a little bit cooler, and it goes into an airtight aseptic Tetra Pak with a full light barrier. And the airtightness and the full light barrier is what allows it to stay not 5 to 7 days, but allows it to stay shelf stable for 6 to 12 months. And we can do that without any artificial preservatives. So I didn't know that when I was learning. Now, that's one dissection of milk. There's short life milk and long life milk. And then within those categories, then there's dairy milk, there's dairy lactose-free milk, there's plant milks, and then those are the differences. And you can get those formats both in a short life fresh version, and you can get them in a long life version as well. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Now that I'm thinking about it, this is why short life milk is in plastic bottles.
Yeah.
With no light.
With light going through.
With light.
Yeah,
no light barrier, with light going in, and long life or UHT milk is in a box.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't know that difference.
Right.
So we've had to educate a lot of people on it. And actually, you can get really healthy, clean, long life milk. And that was something that I learned when I was doing a lot of my research.
Right. And back then you saw there was a gap for this sort of product.
Absolutely. And the third thing that I did is I would talk to a lot of buyers. So I went to all the buyers of the major retailers, and I would just go to them without any business card and say, hey, I'm doing research. And the buyers were really nice and the buyers here talked to me. And I said, hey, what's important to you? And they would also give me some hints on, hey, if you have, I was like the second brand to come into the market with organic milk. And there was no whole milk at the time. Everything was in plastic and not paper. There wasn't vitamin D. But the other thing is that the buyers were telling me that on the supply chain side, it was very difficult to air freight in fresh milk, organic milk. And that if you could do a short life milk that was clean label and tasted good, that was an opportunity. And that's why I looked at long life milk. And it ended up being our savior because things like COVID, you know, where you wanted to stock milk in your pantry, or the supply chains, the shipping was all messed up, but it ended up being a really good avenue that we investigated.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you also told me in our discussion yesterday about these marketing tactics. That helped you sort of also launch and expand your product or increase your market share.
Yeah.
So tell me about this experience, and maybe one or two cases that you felt were successful.
Yeah. So we were broke when we started the company and when we were doing our proprietary primary research and listening. And we didn't have a lot of budget when we finally brought the product in 2014-ish and had to market. And so a couple things that we did, where we were really scrappy, but it was the essence of a real homegrown brand, And so number one is I got a little lucky, right? One, those 1,000 or so mothers that I was asking questions for, I built relationships with them. So when I launched the product, I listened to what they said. And it's so amazing, but they're like, I want whole fat milk. There wasn't whole fat. I want it in paper packaging, not plastic. I want vitamin D. We knew it was kids. So we made Serena, my daughter, designed the cow, right? So it would speak to children because that was the number one application. So when I launched, those mothers, they were like, we feel like we're part of this brand. So instantly when I got it listed on the shelves at one or two retailers, when they found out about it, they bought it and they were like, I helped Mustafa create this brand. So that was one thing I got.
You immediately earned yourself 1,000 advocates. Basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The second thing that I did, and there was, I approached the social media influencers. And 10 years ago, a lot of them didn't even have rate cards. They were just up and coming, and I befriended them, through whether it's my charisma or friendliness or just being a nice, genuine, authentic guy. I approached 4 or 5 mom influencers, and without really charging much, they started promoting us. And at that time, the big FMCG companies didn't understand that social media influencer things. And I befriended like Edwina Veal, Chris Fade, I got lucky and connected with him and got some social media influencers that kind of gave us, I call it free publicity. And it was very valuable because they actually really believed in me and the brand. So it was very authentic and genuine. The one tactic that I think stands out is Edwina, who I'm still in touch with today. She actually had an amazing idea for me. And I have to kind of give her props or credit for it. But she's like, listen, why don't you do this? Why don't you have what's called coffee mornings with moms? And she's like, through her network and my network, let's find, again, just like the proprietary primary research, let's find 10 kind of cool, influential moms, right? So like Edwina, for example, had Letitia Tronig, who also ran a PR company. She was really well known in the community. Lucy Bruce, who owned Homegrown Nursery, very well known in the community, and a lot of other like really cool, influential moms. And we asked them, hey, could you get 10 of your friends together and we'll buy coffee at like a coffee shop or at someone's home or Homegrown Nursery. And I'll come as the founder. I'll give out samples of milk. I'll spend half an hour and tell my story. And then I'll listen to them to get their feedback on the current products. At the time, we just had 2 SKUs, organic 1 liter whole and organic low fat whole, or low fat 1 liter. And we'll tell them stories, and then we'll listen and ask them, what do they want to see as our next product, And so what the beautiful thing was is back then, we had these coffee mornings. They didn't cost a lot of money because we were paying for the coffee. We had these Koita bags. I'd come in with my, marketing person. I give the spiel, and what happened? One is, it was like part one, guerrilla marketing, because I'm right there with them. Part two, each of those moms had like 1,000 followers on Facebook at the time and Instagram. Yeah. Right. So they're each like posting, and that's like 10,000 impressions. Right. And then it was like word of mouth and really natural. They would be taking selfies with me. They'd be taking pictures. They're like, I just tried the milk. It tastes great. And so just imagine we did 10 coffee mornings with moms, 10 of them each, all with 1,000 like friends approximately. So you get 100,000 hits just like that.
Was that a weekly event?
We did it over 10 weeks.
Right.
And Edwina was the one who really like helped me put this together. Yeah. And I remember we were at like Homegrown Nursery with Lucy Bruce. I think we did 2 at Homegrown Nursery. And we did another really successful one at Letitia's house. And it was just amazing. And then now I have the 1,000 moms that I asked information from. And then I got another, let's say 100,000 hits. And then things started taking off. And then we started listing in some retailers. And the buyers, by the way, I'll tell you, it was tough because we go to a buyer and they're like, what's your marketing budget? And I'd be like, I'm on Facebook. And they're like, what's Facebook? That was the answer. Uh-huh. But then luckily I hustled. I got a couple of retailers and they were surprised. They're like, dude, I put it on the shelf and the shit just started flying. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, because we have these these moms. And so it just kind of spread like wildfire. And the first 3 containers I pulled into the UAE just sold out. And that was just hustling, persistence, there was like 4 or 5 employees in the company. And we did stuff like that.
That's very insightful and helpful for anyone who's launching a new product.
You don't need a lot of money to launch a brand. Everyone's got that fallacy, like, I got to go raise 10 million and do this. Like, we just started small. You know, we're like, let's focus on one city. Let's just have 2 SKUs. Let's focus on 3 retailers, and let's be laser focused on this one city and this target community. And that reduced the cost experience. And we were very focused.
And now, while these are really good marketing tactics, we shouldn't undermine also the quality of the product, which made these moms come back, right? And this is something that advertisers should know, right? When they brief their marketing consultants or agencies, and they ask for successful marketing plans. They need to remember that the product needs to be really good as well, right?
Ibrahim, you're totally right. And that actually, it starts with the product. And so, you know, I will backtrack. When we listen to those moms, you know, milk is like a very intimate part of your lifestyle. And especially when you're giving it to your child, you know, it's like, you know, when people decide their milk, it's like a very personal experience. And once you earn the trust of a consumer, you're feeding them like every day, right? Their children, the mom, the father, the sister, the brother. And what I decided as a parent is that I wasn't going to produce the cheapest organic milk. I was going to produce the best organic milk. So the fat content was higher than what the requirement was. We went all over the world searching for milk, and we found that Italian milk, because of what the cows eat, our cows are like under the Italian Alps. They have like a better view than I do right now. You know, so how they feel, how a cow feels is just like how when a mom feels good, her breastfeeding is a higher quality too. The Italians know how to pasteurize milk really well. You know, I was like, if it's not good enough for my kids, I'm not selling it to anyone else. And we ended up coming in as one of the most expensive milk brands, but we're like, I'm only selling this because this is what I want for my child, you know? And so whether it's our almond milk that has the highest clean ingredients, or the dairy milk, or, you know, so we really like spent a lot of time getting to know the farmers, looking at where it came from, and making it was a parenting decision, not a commercial decision when we were looking at quality.
Right.
And that affected the taste profile and the quality of the product.
Yeah, I can definitely vouch for the taste.
Yeah, thank you.
Which is not common for long life milk, right? Cool, good stuff. And now that you've obviously expanded the team, the business, you have someone that takes care of marketing. You don't get too involved in marketing, but as a business owner, right? What do you still demand from your marketing team? What are the things that you ask from them?
That's an interesting question. And I remember when we were talking about, like, the first 5 years, I was doing the marketing. Like, I was running the Instagram handle. I was serving up ads through the Facebook app, and I suck at doing it. It was like so technical, man. I didn't understand it. And then as we got bigger and bigger, like, you know, after we passed the $1 million mark and $3 million mark and $7 million mark, you know, I was able to have the luxury to hire experts, right? And to lead into your question, I ended up realizing that, you know, as an entrepreneur, you're kind of a generalist, but then as you start hiring your big heads, sales, marketing, finance, you have to hire people that are smarter than you, you know, and I luckily, that was easy. You know, it was easy to find people smarter than me. Mm-hmm. So I hired some people smarter than me. And then to your question, what was I demanding of them? Now they took us to the next level. So our marketing person, Mariuxi Romero, right now, she's amazing. She was at Johnson & Johnson for 15 years in the Levant. She can teach classes. She can do podcasts on her own.
I'd love to have her on the show.
Absolutely. And so, you know, she's managing now an agency. You know, she's managing our activations, our trials, you know, sampling. So at the end of the day, I'm asking for a return on investment. But with marketing, there's 2 types of return. There's a short and a long term, right? Mm-hmm. And what I've realized is that the branding aspect, we've done none above the line. Right. It's all digital or, guerrilla marketing, but there's
Yeah.
a branding aspect. So one is, are we getting the word out? Are we getting impressions? So that's one kind of factor that I'm looking at, is impressions on the branding.
Yeah.
Then there's some short-term stuff that I can track, right? And the two short-term things are, on the digital side, there's ROAS that you can get from helping manage sales, whether it's through our e-tailer channel,
Right.
our own, and this is across the region, right?
Yeah.
So ROAS is always like a big thing, and Mariusz is always telling me about ROAS.
Yeah.
And then sampling is just, because when people taste our product, you brought up a really interesting point. It's a UHT milk that almost tastes fresh. That's how good it is. And that's why I think we win customers. So when we sample these like 200 ml organics, we usually get a customer because they're like, wow, it just tastes so good. So sampling is kind of the third big metric that we grew our sampling 300% year over year, right? We're investing big time in sampling. Those are kind of like the three big things. Mm-hmm. And then how well she manages her budget. And Mariusz has a limited marketing budget because we're not, billion-dollar company, not yet, at least. Mm-hmm. And so just how she's managing her budget. I think those are kind of the things that I ask from her. And then I stick my nose in every once in a while when it comes to like messaging and branding. But,
well,
she's...
It's your name on it.
It's my name on it, but she's really done a wonderful job teaching me and the rest of the team and showing us how we can take this brand to the next level.
Right. So you sound like a CFO when you say ROI.
Yeah.
You want to track ROI.
Yeah. I've got a CFO who asks that all the time. Yashin, he's always asking for the ROI, and he's a great modeler, and he brings in another great element.
Yeah. When you say sampling, can you develop a little bit more on that? Do you mean like testing different products or doing also focus groups?
The main thing that I meant is, okay, during focus groups, we're always doing sample testing.
So you never stop these coffee mornings.
Actually, we continue to do coffee mornings every single year for the last 11 years, and we can, because I love them, because I meet the consumers. I don't go to as many as I used to back in the days, but I try and go to at least 25 to 50% of them, depending on my schedule. You get so many golden nuggets of it. So you got to constantly be learning, and you constantly got to be listening. So one, sampling is happening in that when we're testing out like a new chocolate flavor or a new lactose-free flavor or something like that. Two is just the sampling of the current products. So we do sampling through our retailers, both offline and online, and that's the one that I really enjoy the most, because as soon as we sample, we see a very big return on, and the return is very quick, right? Because you do the sampling 1 month, and the next month you see your baseline increase, and then you get those repeat buyers, and that's invaluable,
Yeah. When you say e-tailers, I'm interested to know a bit more on also offline sales in linking that back to ROI.
Yeah.
Right. So with e-tailers, it's digital, it's measurable, it's easy to link it back to investment in real time, because you should be able to track the data.
Yeah.
Right. Do you face any challenges when it comes to offline sales or incorporating offline your offline activities into the formula, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the relationship you have with the retailer. Now, I think in the last few years, both e-tailers and offline retailers, and by the way, a lot of the offline guys like Carrefour, Spinneys, Lulus, they have online versions. So they're big in the online space. They've made big investments, but obviously on the pure e-tailers, guys like Amazon, Talabat, Gibson's, and so on and so forth, they're like kind of the big names in the pure e-commerce place. Yeah. And so depending on your partnership with the customer, sometimes you got to pay, sometimes you got to have a good relationship, and you can then get data from them. I think on the online side, both the offline and the pure guys, it's easier for them to see instant data. They have the systems in place. Offline, it's a little bit more difficult sometimes, but I'll be surprised. Carrefour, they got very sophisticated systems. They're tracking really good store by store data, and so lately we've been getting a lot of really good data. So I would say yes, we're getting more and more data, and it's in their interest, right? Because the more data, the more information we have, we can pivot and provide better promos, better information on how we're fees or pricing is decided and things like that.
How quickly is quick commerce growing for you?
Quick commerce,
Or how important is it?
it's important. I mean, quick commerce, I'd say, there was offline, then online was a big growth area for us.
Yeah.
And then I think in the last couple of years, quick commerce has really grown extremely fast.
Yeah.
And online, because we sell kind of a premium product, the Koita consumer is very savvy online. They're very in milk and water, for example, are heavy things that people carry, and they buy them in bulk. And because of the region and the delivery cost, people don't like lugging tons of milk home. And so we've really grown on both quick com and online in a huge way. I mean, where it was single digit percentage of our overall, for example, in the UAE, now it's north of 35%.
Wow.
It's really grown fast.
That's
And that includes Carrefour, Spinneys, Lulu's, e-com, as well as the pure guys. They're all investing heavily in it.
I think that's a really good number relative to the average for the region. I don't have the exact number, but I would say El Tire, for example, it's a different category, obviously, but I don't think they're nowhere near the 30% or maybe 20%.
I think because of the type of customer that we have, because someone going for an organic or kind of a healthy living kind of product, they just happen to be a bit more e-com savvy, is what we've learned from our consumer research. And so we tend to have a heavier e-com channel percentage than the more conventional products.
Right. And you still win their hearts offline or via these activities.
Yeah,
right?
both online and offline, because you can sample through e-tailers and offline retailers or brick and mortar retailers. We do a lot of activations. I think last year we partnered with like 30 groups, like Crunch Moms, for example, is a moms group that a friend of mine, Julie, started, and just amazing group. And so we've partnered with folks like them and different groups. Up the Luma, which deals with different types of demographics. I mean, there's lots of groups that we've also partnered with, and those activations have helped a lot.
So what about those activations? Could you maybe describe one that you feel stood out? Or
I mean, I think Crunch Moms was a big one. They have a summit every year where they bring in a couple 100,000 moms, and they bring in some great speakers, and we sponsored their event. We sponsored some of their small events, and we got a really good return on investment in partnering with them. We Mariuxi arranged the Menopause Summit, which was really targeting women's health. And there was a lot of interesting information that we learned, and we also partnered with folks like them. By the way, there's so many groups. I can't name them like Mariuxi could, but we did about 30. And then in Saudi Arabia, we've worked with some mom type influencers and groups like that. So that's interesting as well.
You're very focused on moms.
Yeah.
Are you also looking into other audience groups?
Yeah.
A lot of FMCG brands are now also accounting for men. And men now are turning to healthy products. They're more sensitive and conscious about their diet.
Yeah. You're totally right.
Or isn't it a profitable group? You should stick to moms. What's your view on
I mean,
that?
they're all profitable, but I think what's interesting about milk is depending on your unique dietary requirements, you require different types of milk. And as we've grown, we launched with organic milk, so we really focus on that mom. And the mom happened to be one of the key decision makers of the shopping cart, the grocery cart, for the entire family, whether it was the husband, the son. So I would say kind of families was always sort of a focus, and the mom was sort of the key decision maker. So when we launch organic, that tends to be kind of our natural first group that we're focused on.
Yeah. Health
Conscious moms. And our tagline is, we want to make healthy easy.
Yeah.
The second, then when we launched lactose free, it was kind of a broader group. Lactose free market is bigger than the organic market. And then we started realizing that it wasn't just moms, it was the husbands, it was the sons, but still the mom tended to be a big decision maker. And then when we got into plant-based milks, a lot of athletes, younger professionals that hadn't gotten married yet or weren't a mom, and so we kind of had to diversify our strategy. So it sort of evolved, I guess, is what I could say. So to answer your question, yes, but we kind of grew into it as the range expanded.
Right. There's a trend now on lots of brands developing protein. Milk, right? To tap into this growing segment. I think for both men and women that are becoming more active, doing lots of sports, and looking to get their dosage of protein. Because you gotta get that. I think 1.8 times your body weight of protein every day. Is this?
You're very athletic, so I know you. I know you're a protein shake guy. You know,
I mean, it's tricky. Protein is I wouldn't like to say I'm a protein shake guy, because that would upset my mom, because she's always messaging me telling me I shouldn't drink this stuff.
Yeah, I love protein shakes.
I mean, they taste good.
Yeah, my son, he's big into his working out, so he's like, "Oh, Dad, I got a protein shake, and this is my creatine." So I've kind of gotten back into some of the cool flavored ones, but I love protein shakes. Yeah, they're fun.
Do you think that's an entirely different segment that maybe you would explore? Or?
So two things with protein. One is we were pleasantly surprised that a lot, and so we made a little bit of a pivot on our current range. So a lot of people don't know that milk is a great source of protein. So if you'll notice on like this milk, we say source of protein. This 200 ml milk has 6.6 grams of protein in it. People don't know that, because milk has around 3 to 3.5 grams of protein per 100 ml. This is 200 ml.
Wow.
So we've just been saying that, hey, if you want a really natural form of protein, just drink regular clean milk.
Hang on a second. So 3 of those is 20 grams of protein, which is 1 scoop of whey protein.
Yeah. So if you had, 600 ml of our whole fat milk, you'll get that amount of protein. Not everyone wants to have 600 ml of milk, but so part one is we actually, because our dairy business, both our lactose-free milks and our organic dairy milks have a natural source of protein. So so we've started highlighting the source of protein on the label. So that's one. Number two is then we're looking at new products and protein, which my son Danielle is like, "Yo, Dad, you got to do a protein." Saad, our head of sales, is like, "Hey, man, what about protein?" So we're looking at that space right now, and I think protein is a very interesting segment to us.
Right. Cool. I do want to spend the last few minutes maybe to talk about your view on what do you think are some of the headwinds that you're going to confront, I guess, in the next year or two in this market today, or what are some of the tailwinds also that business owners should account for?
Yeah, well, that's a big question. I'll try. I think that, look, I'll say one thing.
Yeah.
There's always new headwinds and new trends, if that's what you're getting at in the market. And I think that it's really important to stay focused. There's like a matrix that one of my board members, Amjad, sent to me about there's a balance between, have you fully penetrated a current market with your core products, and new product development and new channel development, right? And what we've realized at Koita is that we still haven't fully penetrated. There's a lot of opportunity to penetrate our current channels in the UAE. There's a lot of opportunity to penetrate our current channels in Saudi. So how do you balance those two? And you always have to have a strong NPD pipeline. So we're balanced. So what I want to say is, the point that I'm making is there's always headwinds and tailwinds, but you should always make sure that you've done the basics. Is your distribution in place? Do you have the right RSPs, and are you fully penetrated? Because that low-hanging fruit is really important to businesses that are scaling.
Yeah, and an ROI positive marketing.
Yeah, ROI positive marketing. ROAS, because you're a marketing guru yourself, right? So that's one thing that I want to caution anyone, entrepreneurs or business people, to stay focused. Have you finished the job in your current core market before you start expanding into new products and I think I made the mistake early on where I got into kind of a flag planting exercise, and I wanted to be in all the markets, but I wasn't fully penetrated in my core market. So that's one thing. Now, once I'm fully penetrated, what are we planning for? Now, there's two types of things. You can launch new categories, or you can do range extensions. And range extensions are a lot lower risk than totally new categories. So for example, in our lactose-free range, we've got a lot of white mix, but we haven't launched flavors, and that's something that we're like, hey, the customer already knows Koita for lactose. We're one of the strongest range. We have a wide 5 SKUs in lactose-free. Like, we're the leader when it comes to lactose-free dairy. So why don't we launch more within this category? It doesn't require as much consumer education. They already know Koita is known for lactose. So that's so range extensions are a little bit lower risk than and then when it comes to new products, some of the headwinds that we're seeing are obviously protein is something that I'm very interested in. Functional milks, kind of talking to the consumer about healthy solutions, because I think in the business, we noticed that the milk category was full of a lot of tired brands, and it was very supply chain driven. And even the way you name things, you would name things from a supply chain side, but you got to name things from how the consumer is experiencing the product. And that's a shift. That's a learning that we're going through right now. It's a shift that we're going through. So I don't know if that answers your question.
It does.
But those are some of the things that we think of when you say that.
Right. Mustafa Koita, it's been such a pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'd love to do this again.
We'll do it again. I'm down.
And thank you for coming to the show.
Yeah, thanks, Ibrahim. It's my pleasure. And I'm looking forward to you being number one in podcasts in the UAE. I hope that happens the next time I come visit you.
I hope so too. No
you
pressure.
Will.
No pressure. I'll invite you in a year at least.
All right, cool. I love it, man.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.